Thank you all. Please be seated. Siéntese. Bienvenidos. Thank you for coming. Welcome to El Jardín de los Rosas.
Kids, the bugs and the birds fascinated us. They were just like us. And we were taught to slam the door. It's not cool to feel too much. But some of us break free. Oh, I'm a vegan freak. That's what you think. I'm a vegan freak. You're a vegan, I'm a vegan freak. Happy as I'm a vegan freak.
Coming to you from high atop their elite fortress of moral superiority, here are your protein-deficient hosts, Bob and Jenna.
Hey, Vegan Freaks, this is Bob.
And Jenna.
And we're back again for another Vegan Freak Radio, number 80. 80.
Yes.
80 episodes.
80 episodes. Are you sick of us yet? I hope not.
I don't think people are sick of us.
No.
I think they're sick of us not doing shows.
Yeah, I know. We got to get back on schedule.
So.
But, as always, our excuse, busy.
Yeah, I've been working 12-hour days. I just got straddled with an incredible amount of shit at work that I didn't really want to do. But I'm the only one to do it. So I'm doing it. And they have a lot of leverage over me at the moment. So I wasn't in a position to say no. Thus, I've been working 12-hour days, 5 and 6 days a week. Woohoo! Fun. Enough of my whining, but that's why we've been gone. We've both been very busy with work, real work.
Yes.
Everyday work.
So, and bienvenidos. Vegan Freak Radio.
Yeah. This guy, okay, Bush, supposedly fluent in Spanish. Supposedly. Now, that does not sound fluent to me.
No.
You don't have to speak Spanish, and that does not sound fluent to you.
No.
Listen.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Siéntese.
Oh, God.
Bienvenidos. Thank you.
Bienvenidos.
He's a snake.
Yeah. Georgie the Snake. Okay. I heard that. That's old, obviously, because it's from the El Cinco de Mayo, as George said. I think all George knows about Cinco de Mayo is drinking Coronas with his frat buddies.
Yeah.
Out somewhere in the Deke house. Anyway, so I heard that and we had to eat it on the show because we have a lot of funny Bush things, and that was worth adding to the funny Bush things queue. This is my favorite, though.
You're working hard to put food on your family.
He sounds so serious.
He does.
Yes. And we pulled off other interesting little clips from here and there on the web. Like this one. We're going to open the show with this one, but we couldn't figure out exactly how to do it. I like this one. This is from some vinyl a friend of mine passed me.
Mother, what do husbands and wives do when they get married?
What do husbands and wives? Why do you ask, dear?
Well, there were some drawings in Bob's textbook. I didn't mean to look at them, honest.
My textbook?
Well, then some of the older girls, well...
You mean they talk about things sometimes?
Well, yes. Only they stop when they see me coming.
What do husbands and wives do when they get married? It's quite a beautiful story, dear.
Oh, it is a beautiful story indeed. And if the husbands and wives are like us, they do Vegan Freak Radio.
Yeah.
So here we are. So we've got a lot of voicemails. God, yes. We were just sitting here arguing about voicemails.
So, because we haven't done any in eons, like probably since August.
Yeah.
So we have a pile. And most of these are from October, so they're,
Okay.
kind of recent.
So we're going to get to some voicemails today, but we also have a couple short things to talk about prior to the voicemail.
Yes. One thing that we want to say is that we have a couple of interviews coming up. So you don't just have to listen to us blather on. You can listen to other people blather on too. No. No, they'll be good and they'll be interesting. We're going to talk to Drina Burton.
She has a new book out.
Again, because she has a new book out, Eat, Drink, and Be Vegan. And I'll tell you right now, if you haven't gotten a copy yet, go get a copy.
It is good.
We've been making things out of there nonstop, really.
Yeah.
They've all been really good.
They have indeed. Drina knows her shit, man.
She does. And just let me tell you, a whole chapter on hummus. So for those hummus freaks out there, you can do your hummus variations, and it's excellent. So we'll be talking to Drina actually next week, I think.
Okay, cool. And we'll have that with her right after we do it, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then later on we have, who do we have?
Nathan Winograd, who wrote a book called Redemption, The Myth of Pet Overpopulation and the No-Kill Revolution in America.
And he's the week after Drina.
Yeah.
So
we'll be talking to him about his book and his experience with no-kill shelters.
Sounds good. Very much looking forward to that.
Me too.
Speaking of new books, my book, Making a Killing: The Political Economy of Animal Rights, is finally out. Done. Out. You can get it now from AK Press. Amazon, I think, should have stock soon if they don't already. I think it says something like 4 to 6 weeks to get a copy from Amazon, but I can't imagine that's right. That probably means they have stock on the way. You can get it right away from AK Press, though.
Yes.
So you have to, if you want to order it, the best place to order it is from AK Press.
Indeed.
Not from us. We don't even sell it.
No, because it's not our book.
It's not. Well, it's my book, but we didn't publish it. So AK Press published it. And I suspect it will be a book that will generate some level of controversy.
It'll piss people off.
I think it will piss some people off. I didn't intend to piss people off, though. I do have a couple little things in there that I think will make some people angry or make them laugh. Some of it's funny. Some of it's very funny. For example, hold on. I'll grab some.
Okay. So, also, if you are a member of Friends of AK, I think you'll be getting a copy, won't you?
Yeah, you'll get this in your Friends of AK.
And if you're not at Friends of AK, you should go check out their program. Friends of AK.
It's good stuff.
They send you all their new releases that they publish.
So, let me tell you a little bit about the book. I mean, first off, it kind of takes an overview of... It does an analysis of animal agriculture and talks about how animal agriculture and capitalism work together to exploit animals. And then it deals with this whole question of the animal rights movement itself and where the movement is going on the one hand. But on the other hand, some of the problems of the left and movements on the left and how they're not integrating in thoroughly the issue of animals. And the book concludes with a chapter called You Cannot Buy the Revolution, the gist of which is get up off your ass and go do something. And go do something means more than giving money to organizations. I also point out what I think are some of the flaws in veganism, and I think veganism has some problems. And part of what I say here is, let's see, I talk about how there are, some freegans, I'll just read you a little bit. Some freegans use this to argue against what they see as vegan purity and avoiding animal products. It is more useful to urge vegans to move beyond the bourgeois lifestyle politics and the upper-class ecosexualism some vegans promote through consumption. And I go on and talk about some things like, I say, magazines like Veg News are veritable porn for this lifestyle, and they take it to the extreme, detailing $20,000 vegan weddings, vegan vacations in Tahiti. What's wrong, Jenna?
Nothing.
Okay. Vegan vacations in Tahiti and other exotic locales, and above all, most else promoting a brand of vegan consumerism, which would make one believe that the magazine editors really feel like we can buy our way to redemption if only we can find the perfect pleather handbag and take delivery on this year's new, more efficient Toyota Prius in Seaside Pearl with the bisque interior. And I go on to talk about why I think some of these perspectives on veganism are flawed and why we need to actually have a veganism that comes kind of from an analysis of oppression. Mm-hmm. So rather than one of purity. And that's not to say that I don't know. I mean, I think the vegan movement has some flaws. I think we need to think critically about those flaws. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have nice stuff necessarily. I'm not saying that we shouldn't consume anything. I'm just saying we should be a little more thoughtful.
Of course.
So that's kind of the gist of Making a Killing. I won't go into too much depth. I'm sure that
we can't consume our way to a better world.
Right.
Only.
That's it.
If we want a better world, we have to make a lot of changes at the base level.
I completely agree.
Of things.
And I think that's the gist of that. So that snarky little part there, which admittedly is a little snarky.
You snarky?
No, never. No, I think the word I've seen before is smug. And that's okay. But anyway, I would encourage, I think I hope it'll be an interesting read for people. I know a lot of people out there will disagree with a lot of what is in the book, but my goal isn't that people agree with me. My goal is that we talk about the movement, because I think we moved into a place in the animal rights movement where we end up worshiping idols and we don't talk enough about strategy. We don't talk enough about how we can do things differently and more effectively. And I think that there are some dangerous elements of that. Mm-hmm. A kind of a conservatism or parochialism within the movement. Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, veganism isn't the baseline. Veganism is just, oh, well, it would be nice if people would go vegan, but they don't use it as a strategy. And whereas people should be talking about veganism more. Absolutely. And the book itself also takes this analysis of animals. I mean, it works off of a kind of idea, works off of a foundation from Gary Francione, kind of combines Francione with Marxist political economy and says, look, animals are commodities and property. And anything that we do that doesn't challenge the property and commodity status of animals condemns more animals in the future to more exploitation. Yep. And I kind of go through why that's the case, and I explain that
what I think are in fairly easy to understand terms. I went to a lot of trouble to make sure that the Marxist political economy in this book was easy to understand. So you don't really need to know a lot. I mean, if some of you are out there going, oh my God, I don't know anything about Marx, you don't need to know anything about Marx to read this book, or anything about left politics. Well, it helps to know something about left politics. It's important to note that I went to a lot of trouble to make sure the book was readable by anybody, pretty much. So that was one of the goals. Speaking of books, though, we're going to do a second edition of Vegan Freak, too.
Yes, this coming summer.
We're going to write it this coming summer. It should be out in the fall. Yeah. So, and we're going to publish it with a different press.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that as the time draws near. So, Making a Killing AK Press. I would love to hear what you think of it. Maybe we should interview me on the show.
So, Bob, what do you think of Bob?
Yeah. Bob, what was the, I could, actually, though, the thing is like, I know, here's the thing about writing a book. I write this book, and I know the book isn't perfect. I know there are things in here that, whenever you write a book, you can only do so much.
Right.
You're limited by time. You're limited by space. You're limited by the idea. You have a central idea you want to get across. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely things in here that I think, could be expanded or extended. Mm-hmm. So.
And like any good ideas, all ideas should be continually to develop, and that kind of thing. So,
well, that's the goal.
I would imagine that happens. Yeah,
that's the goal. Mm-hmm. So that's Making a Killing.
Cool.
Yeah, man. What else do we have on there? Anything else on the list?
You want to talk about your class in Earthlings?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. I'm teaching a class called Animal Rights, Human Rights, or Human Rights, Animal Rights. I forget which it really is. It's one of the two. I'm teaching a class. I don't even know what the hell it's called. And what I found really interesting about that class so far is we started talking about animal rights. We talk about human rights first. And so we talk about what a right is and how a right establishes kind of a boundary, a moral trump. It's something that supersedes, in a sense, So we were talking about human rights, and we talked about some of the failures of the human rights paradigm. And then we moved into this, or some of the failures of human rights within, the liberal paradigms, I mean to say, within kind of our conception of human rights from a political standpoint. I can go into more depth on this, but I don't want to bore the show of people. So we moved from human rights into this animal rights. And the day we did the animal rights stuff, I brought in Earthlings. I didn't show the whole thing because I thought, Earthlings is a little much. And if you haven't seen Earthlings, we've talked about it in the show in the past. It's a really difficult film to watch. Mm-hmm. And I think for those of you that are already vegan, don't fucking bother.
Yeah, I haven't even watched it yet.
This is not for you. This film is not for you, okay?
Yeah. It'll just make you upset and pissed off and whatnot. And I don't know. That's why I haven't watched it yet, because I just know that it would really affect me badly.
Yeah, it's a tough film to watch. So I showed Earthlings, and I didn't show all of it. I showed about 20 minutes of it. And it's the 20 minutes that deals with the majority of our food animals. I didn't show the seafood part. There's a whole part on seafood. I just showed the part about pigs and cows and chickens. 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And people were crying. They were looking away. They were trying not to watch it. Some people left. They couldn't deal with it. After that, students told me privately later on, I haven't eaten meat in days since I've watched it. I can't eat it. I look at the food and I see that. And I think that's like Thor's hammer, man. It's like, smash, that's the best weapon we have right now.
Yep.
I really think in terms of videos, that's the best weapon we have. Look, Peaceable Kingdom, welfareist message, kind of weak. Mm-hmm. A little, badoo, happy, whatever. Mm-hmm. Earthlings does not let up. It doesn't. Peaceful Kingdom has these kinds of moments where you can breathe.
Right.
It's very nice. It's nicely paced in that way.
Yeah.
And in some ways, not to diss it. It has its positive aspects. It can be used very effectively.
It can be,
The Witness can be used very effectively as well. Mm-hmm. Another film. But both of those films have in the moment like breaks, breaks from kind of the exploitative footage. And the exploitative footage is the minority of the film. Mm-hmm. Earthlings opens with exploitative footage and ends with exploitative footage. And it's just like bang, 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 Thor's fucking hammer down upon your head over and over and over again. And of course it's Joaquin Phoenix, narrating the whole thing and Moby's music throughout the whole thing. And no, he actually does a nice job with that. Uh-huh. But they both do.
Yeah.
And so the film is extremely powerful for those reasons. And I would encourage any of you who, if you have a chance to show it to people and you can get them to watch it, get them to watch it. I even showed another class where I teach a class in anarchism, a sociology of anarchism. And I made the class read, forced my will upon them, made them read some of my book because the book is really about anarchism and animal rights. And I told them, they started to ask a lot of questions about the production of animals for food. And I said, if you really want to see, I can show you some footage. I had 2 vegans in the class who are kind of friends of mine as students, and who I lent Earthlings to and who had seen it. And it made one of the girls go vegan. And the other guy is like, man, this is amazing. I'm going to show this to everybody. So they started chuckling because like, you can show them Earthlings. So I brought in 20 minutes, showed them 20 minutes Earthlings, and they were just shocked. It's just shocking. And the things that are in the film I don't think that they're that far out there in terms of what really happens. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. What are you going to say?
It just sounds like it's just an amazing weapon about just getting rid of that cognitive dissonance.
It does.
It breaks the illusion.
It immediately does.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I really like it. It's a very powerful film.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have Earthlings, you should definitely get your hands on a copy and show it to people who will watch it. I don't know how you're going to get them to watch it, but and the whole film, I frankly think the whole film is too much. I have a hard time watching it, even the 20 minutes that deal with.
Yeah. I came down and watched, I saw like 2 minutes of it when you were watching it the one day, and I was like, nope, nope,
yeah.
Can't do it.
Well, another cool thing too, though, is that in teaching this animal rights class, I mean, there are a significant number in this people in this class who are thinking about going vegan or vegetarian. We talk extensively about why vegetarianism isn't really an intelligent option if you're interested in animal suffering. I mean, no offense to vegetarians out there. Mm-hmm. I don't mean not intelligent. It's just...
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense when it comes down to it. I mean, because you're still essentially participating in that exploitation. And so we've examined that. We've talked about that. And students are very seriously thinking about veganism to the point where I said to them, look, if you want, I'll give you a free copy of Vegan Freak, my book, Vegan Freak. And a whole bunch of them took it. More than half the class.
Good.
Took this copy of Vegan Freak. We're talking about like more than, there were about 20 students in the class. So that was cool. And I think, the questions they're asking are questions where I can tell that they're actually thinking about these issues and moving in that direction. Mm-hmm. And that gives me a lot of hope because it makes me think that the arguments are very powerful. Mm-hmm. But I do have a guy in the class who's mad at me for not assigning Peter Singer. So it's very funny. Uh-huh. So anyway, I don't want to bore you with discussions of my class, but that's about that.
It's interesting. And I mean, we even talked about before you trot in Earthlings about whether we should do it or not, whether you should do it or not, because it's such a harsh weapon, It is. Like, do you want to start with just the sort of reading, talking about the arguments, or do you just want to lay it all on the line,
Yeah. Well, what we did was I asked them to read a couple chapters out of Reagan's book, Empty Cages, that kind of succinctly detail some of the problems with the animal foods industries. And I actually think Reagan has a really dumb mistake in there that annoyed me when I read that again. He refers to male cattle as cows. And I'm like, no. And how do the editors not catch that? All these fancy editors in New York City, I guess, they don't know the difference, right? Anyway, that annoyed me. It was very minor, but it was one of those things that bothered me. So I asked him to read some of those chapters, and then we went into that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think, the class is probably an interesting one because the students are already predisposed, I think.
Sure, by taking the class already. Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. They're already open to some of the questions. Mm-hmm. There are people in the class, though, who are very recalcitrant. There's one woman in the class who, really just doesn't care about animals, and that's where she's at. Yep. So it's fun to do. I actually really enjoy this class. I've been enjoying them as a group, and it's been good because we've been going through the arguments and constructing an argument through the whole class about why it matters. And that's a nice thing to do because often when you're trying to get to people as a vegan, right? What do you get? 2 or 3 minutes and they're not really all that interested.
True.
And it's nice to have an opportunity in a class to really make an extended argument about why these things matter. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about writing books as well. You get a chance to make a longer argument like that.
That's true.
Yeah. So it was cool. Very cool.
Very cool.
All right. What are we doing now?
I guess we should move on to our voicemails.
Voicemails. We don't have any other witty banter for our audience after all of these weeks and months of us not recording a show. This is the most we can give them. I can't even tell how long we've been recording for.
Yeah. Another thing that held us up a little bit is we've been having some technical difficulties.
Not really.
Not super bad, but...
Actually, one of them was super bad. The program that we used to record the show you would hit record, and it would look like it was recording on the screen, and then you'd stop it, and it would erase everything that you just recorded.
Well, it's a good thing you figured that out before we started recording the show.
I thought that.
So, yeah.
I spent yesterday trying to fix that and ultimately failing. But we are recording, and we're here, and we're ready to fucking rock and roll. I think.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of. You know. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we need to tell our audience that's new and exciting about our lives.
No. Really?
New and exciting.
Not really.
It's funny. It's like new and exciting about our lives. What do? I work. So.
Yeah, that's about it.
We've had job candidates come into our department at the university, and that's what I've actually been very busy with. And some of them say, well, what is life like up where we are? And I say, I don't really know. I go to work. I come home from work. I work. I get up. I go to work. I come home from work. I work. So it's like, all I see is inside of my office. Here, my inside of my office at home, my inside of my office at work. So.
And quickly trying to go for a run with the dogs before it gets dark.
Yeah, that's been fun this past week.
That's been fun. Getting home like 4:30, 4:45, and be like, all right, if we get changed really quickly, we go really fast, we can come home, beat the dark. Sort of. It's usually kind of dark when we get back. So anyway.
Sort of, kind of. Sort of, kind of. All right, I guess we might as well do some voicemails. What do you think?
Sure.
Time once again for some vegan freak voicemail. Maybe we'll hear from a hot chick
or a choice male.
Callers make us happy and help us keep our sanity, even if all they wanna do is fucking complain about the shit load of profanity.
So, man, and what kinds of voicemails do we have this week? We got a whole bunch.
We do.
Now, that's a good question, Bob.
I actually like this. I like this little one, too. This one. This is the favorite clip that I mined out of all those 1950 sex ed vinyl.
Okay.
Remember later how your mother told you about the different openings in your body and what they were for?
Yeah. This one's good, too.
But when a doctor speaks of the male organ, he calls it a penis.
Hey, vegan freaks. It's Al from St. Paul. Just calling to let you know I just got out of a concert in Minneapolis. The concert was...
Did you flash the horns? Oh, did you rock it out? You should see me right now. I'm rocking it totally. Okay, sorry.
Ted Leo and the Pharmacists. And Ted Leo is a vegan of 10 years. So I was thinking about veganism while I was at the show. And I was up at the balcony and I was watching the people down at the pit crammed together really tightly, bobbing their heads kind of. And they looked like certain kinds of non-human animals. And I couldn't help but just keep thinking about walls coming down from the ceiling and imprisoning them for the rest of their lives, and with only food being dropped in occasionally. And I don't know, probably have to cut off their fingernails so they wouldn't scratch each other, and maybe dull their teeth so they wouldn't mutilate each other while going after the food.
We have to brand them, too.
Yeah, things I think about while I'm at a concert. Anyway, I was also thinking about veganism today because I went to the Minnesota Vegan Freak meetup today in Minneapolis, and it was cool, and it was fun, and I brought my 15-month-old daughter along, and she smiled, and she ate a lot of great vegan food, and it was a good time. So anyway, I just want to check in and let you know you guys are great. And I've been finding a lot of really cool abolitionist blogs online. It seems like a lot of vegan blogs have an abolitionist bent to them, so that's it's kind of a nice thing and a nice find, and I have no doubt that you guys have a lot to do with that. So way to go, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
Well, thanks, Al. Good. I think it's really interesting, though, as a vegan, we tend to see things in the world in very different ways, you know?
Yeah. Other people would not have understood why you would have thought about that. But you think about, the cattle in the holding pens being at the, at the feedlots, and that's exactly what they were. Or the chickens in, big sheds, exactly. You have to cut off their beaks and, oh, but they're only animals.
Yeah.
So we can do that. We think about humans, it's absurd, but no. But to us, it's not absurd.
Another thing I was thinking about with regard to my class, and one of the things I've heard repeatedly lately is this whole idea of like, what if we were to, this just made me think about that for a second about the whole absurd. What if we were to give up animal agriculture? People always have asked me this lately. This is one I haven't heard before. What would we do about all the jobs that are being lost? To me, that's like an absurd question, number one, because it misses the point. The point, I mean, part of the point of animal rights argument is like you're looking at the whole thing as a moral wrong. So during slavery, for example, in the United States, there's no question that dismantling slavery cost the South a lot of money. The entire economy of the South was founded upon slavery. But we looked at slavery as an abject moral wrong and decided that this is not something that we could get behind. And it was something that we decided we had to do away with. Consequences be damned. It was such a wrong that we had to do it. And I feel like that's how vegans feel about animals, right? We look at it as such a moral wrong that the consequences, some people lose their jobs. Oh, well, you know what I mean? Right. They're engaged in immoral behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to restructure the economy so that we don't have to rely on the death of all these animals for that sector of the economy,
Exactly. I like what, Al's kind of point there is that if you look at it, it's just like if you drive around here, if we drive a certain direction out of the town we live in, there's a kind of concentrated animal feedlot. And you can look in and you can actually see the animals, cows, under a single roof in this concentrated area, and it's sad because it looks actually kind of like a pit in that way. So,
and you know that they never leave.
And they never leave
until they're going to die.
That's true. It's the last time they leave. And here's Al again.
Hey, vegan freaks, it's Al again. I forgot my shameless plug. My blog is This Little Piggy Had Tofu at blogspot.com. It's about raising my daughter vegan. She's been vegan since conception, and so how could I forget the shameless plug? Anyway, talk to you guys later.
There you go.
Cool. Go check that out.
All right. Our next one is from Alex.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Alex, and I wanted to call because I was just driving to my dad. It's like a 4.5-hour trip, so of course I'm going to listen to Vegan Freak Radio. But I was driving, and for the first time since, like, my entire life, really, that I can remember, I saw one of those horrible chicken, like, carrying trucks, and I was thinking, like, first of all, I was really pissed. Like, I just wanted to, like, ram my car into the truck there, but, I have a rental, so that wouldn't be good.
No. That's the car you should do it with. You do it with a rental. I mean, a rental is the right car to do it with. Oops. I slipped. My foot just hit the accelerator and it couldn't. Anyway,
But you don't want to hurt the chickens.
True. True. Yeah, I mean, actually, there have been cases where trucks like that have crashed and horrible things have happened to the chickens. Not that we would encourage you ever to do anything illegal on Vegan Freak Radio, especially interfering with an animal enterprise.
Bad.
And of course, I didn't pay for, that insurance thing, so not good. But I was just like, how can that driver just sit there and like not be affected by the fact that he's driving these poor chickens? And like I remember hearing on one of the voicemails that was left like in previous shows. I don't remember which show. Like one of the girls was driving and she saw one, and I'm just like, how can they not be affected? That, I mean, they're driving these like living, creatures, and it's just like you can tell that they're miserable, and just so mad, and I can't even talk right now, but your show totally helped, by the way. I just started listening to it, and I calmed down, and then I finally got a chance to call you and, let out my anger because, people are just retarded sometimes. That's not a proper term. Sorry. They're ridiculous. Oh, I'm just so mad. Anyway, hope you guys are doing good. Bye.
You know, this is a common question that comes up. How can people do it? How can slaughterhouse workers slaughter animals? How can meat eaters eat meat? How can people who, well, let's forget about meat eaters eating meat. Let's talk about people who are directly involved in the exploitation of animals. You know, directly one-to-one exploitation. How do they do it? They do it through, I mean, there are two different ways to look at it, right? One way you can look at it from this perspective of people in their everyday course of life. I mean, if you look at studies of human behavior, humans are very interesting creatures in that if we can be convinced that someone else is responsible for what we're doing, we can do almost anything to anyone. Or that if we're convinced that it's somehow condoned.
Right.
So if you look at the Milgram obedience studies, you know, people were shocking other people. Well, they thought they were shocking other people as far as killing them, you know, in this one study that was set up. I don't want to go into a lot of depth on it because it's just, it's kind of a tangent. But the point I'm getting at is that humans are very good at creating these systems that allow us, as part of the system, to be cruel to other creatures, to be cruel to other people. I mean, look at Nazi Germany. These were people who went to work every single day, people who worked in concentration camps, right? They went to work every single day. They came home, they pet their dogs, they loved their kids. They weren't genocidal serial killers in every single day life, you know, in their home life, but that's what they did every day as a matter of course. Why did they do that? Because there was a structure in place that convinced them that the people that they were killing were less than people.
Right, they were objects. They
were objects, or they were somehow getting in the way of the real, you know, quote unquote, real people who are going to, you know, the master race or whatever. So, I think in a very similar way, there's this idea that we have as human beings that they're quote unquote just animals. They're just animals. It doesn't matter. And I think a lot of people are able to create that psychological distance.
Definitely.
And there's also, you know, Melanie Joy talks about this in her work, this process of psychic numbing, where we numb ourselves. People who are engaged in those kinds of occupations actually learn to numb themselves to the pain of others, including animals. And
oftentimes then that transfers over to other humans.
Well, that's true too. That's true too. I mean, if you look at, if you read the book Slaughterhouse by Gail Eisnitz, there's this thing in there where she talks to all these slaughterhouse workers who go, you know, they would stick pigs and cut their throats and do all kinds of horrible things to them. They go home and beat their families. You know, it's like they're trying to do that psychic numbing. They're trying to distance themselves from this stuff, but they go home and do that shit too. So I think it operates in a couple different ways, but mostly we human beings are very good at creating these contexts to do these things that quote unquote need to be done.
Exactly.
And we numb ourselves to the pain.
Right. And people have this notion that we have to have meat to survive, so somebody's got to kill it, right?
Right.
But it was interesting. We were talking to this colleague of ours one night at dinner, and he was talking about how in the spring here, when it rains really hard, there are a couple of areas where there's some wetlands. And, there are frogs everywhere. They
horrible.
Cover the road.
It's a frog holocaust.
It is. It's completely horrific. And if you're stuck in one of these areas, you can't drive around because they're everywhere. And so it's just disgusting. And so he was saying about how horrific this was and how sad it was. And he said something like, because it's so unnecessary.
Right.
But this guy eats meat, of course. Right. And I'm assuming that that's okay because he thinks it's necessary.
Exactly.
So that explains a lot of this block. Whereas, I'm going to eat the meat because, well, I have to. I need it to survive. And so, well, it's sad, but, you know, we got to kill the animals. Whereas this frog holocaust, well, that's just really sad because it's just so unnecessary.
Well, yeah. And I think I really agree. I think people have this idea that, you know, everything that we do with animals is somehow this question of an emergency. You know, we have to eat animals or we'll die. We'll have to do X with animals or we'll die. You know, and it isn't that. It isn't that.
No,
every vegan, you know.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
Yeah, we're not all stuck on a desert island with nothing else to eat.
Yeah.
You know.
And no, it's really interesting though. I see students who think about veganism, and some of them say to me like, "I can't be a vegan. I play lacrosse," and I'm like, "I run 3 to 5 miles a day."
Yeah.
You know, like, I look at me. I'm not an unhealthy guy, not anymore, and I'm a vegan. And it's like they think they can't get enough nutrients as a vegan. I'm like, have you seen vegans? I know some vegans who don't have any difficulty with nutrition, particularly when it comes to cupcakes. You know what I mean? Like nutrient isn't the problem. In fact, it's like every other aspect of the American diet. It's an excess of nutrients. It's the problem. So people have this assumption that, we need to eat animal products to live healthily, but that's absolutely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think veganism is so powerful, is because we illustrate to people that you don't need animal products to live well.
Yeah, we're not dead yet, so.
Not yet. Not yet. So who knows when we will be. Your time can come at any time.
That's a wonderful thought. Okay.
But it can.
I know.
I mean, it absolutely can. The point I'm getting at, though, just to sum it up, is that we are able to very much distance ourselves from these things. And, I also think that people who eat meat are able to distance themselves from the violence done in their name.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows that an animal was killed for that meat, but most people don't know how bad that was. And I think that to get back to the Thor's hammer of Earthlings, I think that's why it's powerful. It makes that connection for them. It says, this is the violence done in your name. This is the violence done for your food 3 times a day that you so damn near can't live without, right? Supposedly. Mm-hmm. So it's a long-winded answer to her question or point, but there you go.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. My name's Anastasia. I'm 16. I live in Fairfax County, Virginia. I've been vegan for about 3 months, and I've been listening to your podcast for like a month, I guess. Actually, I've been vegan for like 4 or 5 months.
Cool.
Anyway, I love your podcast. I haven't heard all the episodes. I'm kind of starting from the back and working my way forward, and I listen to it whenever I drive, so you guys have helped me a lot. But on to whatever I was going to say after thank yous. I'm 16, and I was wondering, you talk a lot about government and politics and all these things surrounding animal rights, and I'm what you would call, like, first of all, a lot of people think I'm a little freaky.
Cool.
Or weird, or the
Good.
epitome of weird, as some have said. But I guess if you look at me, I look kind of like this punk goth girl. But
Good.
so this is what I was wondering, because a lot of people look at me and they assume that, like, oh, she's into drugs, oh, she does this stuff, probably listens to, like, all this metal music. So I was wondering, why is it that people like us, I guess, get bad names or bad labels when we're the people who stand for people's rights, animal rights, and freedom, and basically love, So I was just wondering if you could explain that or kind of talk about it a little bit, because it's just really, I don't know, I think it's just this really weird phenomenon that happens, that people get judged by such wrong things when, in truth, they stand for, completely opposite. For instance, anarchy. People are like, oh, are you an anarchist? You must be in for, like, chaos and all these bad things.
I know.
No, I'm into everybody sharing, loving each other, and being just bonding as a human race, and even past the human race with animals as well. So I was just wondering if you can talk about that a little bit. That would be really, really cool.
Anastasia, you are an anarchist at heart.
Definitely.
It's awesome. And it's powerful.
Yes.
And don't ever let the fuckers get you down. Ever. Because we need people like you. Because here's the thing. They can take all kinds of stuff from us, man. They can beat us down. They can lock us in prison. They can call us fucking names. They can marginalize us. They can ignore us. But they got one thing they can't take from us, and that's our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely think that's true. We can always imagine a better world. We can work towards that imagination, and that's the thing we can't let them get away from us. And you know what? I think too often people get beaten down, and they lose that imagination. They lose that ability to imagine exactly what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we lose that too often.
Mm-hmm. Because the system makes us that way. I mean, we have to work, and we have to do jobs that we don't like, or that would just make us exhausted. And
yeah, that's true. I mean, your question, Anastasia, is a very complicated one that I often spend about half a semester answering in a bunch of my classes.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many different reasons. I mean, the point you just raised about alienation is a key one.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're so busy working, and my own life now is a prime example of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have to do the work I'm doing now, or I may not have the money. Like if I don't do the work I'm doing now, I endanger my job.
Sure.
If I endanger my job, I don't have money to feed my animals, and then they'll eat me. But no, I mean, at a very serious level, not joking. This is what I have to do in order to keep my job.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do? That means that I don't have time to devote to the things I love to do in life. I don't have time to devote to Vegan Freak Radio, which I do love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are times I'm frustrated with not the show, but things I do, animal activism-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it, and I don't have time to do it. And what I'm basically getting at is that I'm so busy with work that I don't have time to do that stuff that I'm really into. And I don't have time. I mean, like Jenna, I mean, how often do we spend time together during a week?
Rarely.
I see you for like 30 minutes a day during the week.
I know.
It's fucking sad. And this is what it is. I mean, our jobs aren't that bad. People work way worse jobs than we do. So they're busy. They're alienated from one another because they're so fucking busy. Number one. Number two, to get back to this whole idea of like, why are people, so afraid of difference? Man, I think there are a lot of different reasons for that. I think one of the big reasons, though, is that people don't really understand it. For a lot of people, being different or being yourself or absolutely taking a stand on anything is the scariest thing in the world. And I think for a lot of people, they don't want to understand why anyone would do that. Because I remember, for example, during my when I was teaching a class for freshmen at St. Lawrence, we asked them to talk about their lives and present kind of a visual autobiography of their lives, And one student got up and said, more than anything else in the world, I hate being different. I hate when people look at me differently. I just want to fit in, And she was dead serious about that. And that made me so sad, Like, it made me sad for the future. Because if we're producing people in the world who just are afraid to be different, who are afraid to take a stand for the things that matter to them, man, it's tough. So a lot of people, I think, are in that position, though, right?
Sure.
They may want to be different, but they're afraid to be different, or they may not want to be different at all. And so I think when people are in that position, they judge those who are different for that reason. Number one. So there's a lot of prejudice in that direction. There's also a lot of misunderstanding. Like, a lot of people assume that if you look different, if you have a lot of tattoos or you have a lot of piercings or you're a fucking weirdo in any way, shape, or form, you're a freak, whatever. They look at you and think, oh my God, this person hates us. It hates society. They feel judged. They feel put upon. They feel like you're too weird for your own good. And they don't trust you, I think. And rather than looking at it as an expression of who you are, they look at it as an offense to them. Like, oh, you're trying to say something about my society. You know what I mean? I think that's one big thing too.
Sure. And stereotyping other people allows them to dismiss that whole group of people just by stereotyping. Oh, they're like this. And I want to believe that because it makes me feel better about me not doing anything.
Yeah. That's true too. And, Anastasia, you raise such a beautiful point about how anarchism, when it comes down to it, is really about, it's really about freedom. It's about liberty. It's about, I think in a lot of ways she's right. It's about love.
It is.
It's about the ability and the desire to love other people.
And respect other people.
And respect them as well. And not just other people, but animals, ecosystem. It sounds really hippie to say it that way because it's not this kind of reformist hippie bullshit. It's about changing the system so that kind of love is possible. So I agree with you. But people, of course, anarchism has this long kind of stained history, checkered past, and people assume immediately that it's some kind of horrible thing. And I talk in my book about this example where, I teach this class in anarchism at work, and I had a colleague of mine, another professor, say, "Oh my God, anarchists, how are you ever going to figure out a time to meet?" And I said, "Yeah, that's really funny. You want to read the syllabus?" I dropped the syllabus on him, and it had all this stuff in it. And he came back to me and apologized. He said, I never knew. People don't know. Yeah. So
and you hear otherwise intelligent people saying anarchy meaning chaos, and that is so fucking annoying.
It is annoying.
It is not chaos. It is the opposite of chaos.
It is indeed.
It is organization, but in a different way than what we're used to.
That's right. We get caught in this idea that there's only one way to deliver the goods of society, and that's through the capitalist system. But there are other ways to organize societies. The long history of humanity has been about organizing society in different ways than capitalism. Every Ayn Rand fucking objectivist prick in the universe would tell you otherwise, but they're wrong. So, long answer, I know, to a short question.
But it's a complex question.
It is, and I feel like I'm not answering it well, but I'm just kind of ranting off the top of my head. So, I don't know. But Anastasia, you should email us if you want to talk about this in more depth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's move on so we don't get too far off topic. And I don't want everyone to feel lectured at. I feel like I'm in class. This is kind of like in class sometimes.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Brandon. I'm calling you guys from Mobile, Alabama. So hopefully I just don't sound like a total hick. But anyway, about 2 weeks ago, I was on the internet and I was looking for sort of like an animal rights themed podcast. And I came around and found your podcast, and I listened to it a lot and really loved it. And downloaded all the back episodes and came across one where you guys were talking about how you couldn't even, imagine how somebody who ate meat could listen to your podcast and actually like it. But so I immediately get online and I wrote you guys an email and totally justified like how I could eat meat and like your podcast still. But you know what? And about a week later, I just totally couldn't justify that anymore. So I've been vegan for 3 days now, and I can not foresee any reason for stopping ever for the rest of my life. And yeah, so I guess I owe you guys for that. And I don't know if you've ever been to Alabama, at least in Mobile, but it is so fucking hard to find like a soy yogurt. Oh my God. I had to go to like 6 different health food stores to find a soy yogurt. But anyway, so I've made the transition. I feel great, and I guess I have you two fucking assholes to thank for it. All right.
Awesome, Brandon. That is cool.
Well, we're very glad you made the choice to go vegan.
We are indeed. We are indeed.
Definitely. And as far as getting vegan goods, the internet is your friend. You can't get soy yogurt on the internet, but you can get actually cheese, fake cheese.
Yeah, you can.
They'll send it to you. And various other vegan products. I don't know how far, I don't know anything about the geography of Alabama, but I don't know how far you are from Atlanta. Probably kind of far.
I don't know.
But there's Cosmos vegan shops in Atlanta.
There you go.
So,
well, that email cracked me up. And Brandon, if you ever feel like you're going to waiver, watch Earthlings.
There you go.
Yeah. And I bet if you went to a local health food store and asked them to order you, a flat or, a small case of yogurt, you could probably do that. They usually have pretty long expiration dates on them too.
That's true. Yeah.
So like our co-op will do that kind of stuff for us. So I bet you can find somewhere down there that would do the same thing.
Probably.
If you look hard enough.
That's true.
And if you can't find anything like that, Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians, so they ain't going to help. They're not vegans. Okay, well, I was going to say look for Seventh-day Adventists, but that isn't going to do anything for you. All right, moving on.
Hey, Bob and Jana. This is Colin. I'm a fairly new listener. Just calling to say thank you for the wonderful podcast. I listen to it on the bus on my way to college every day, and people think I'm crazy because I start to laugh out loud, and I look like I'm insane. Let's see. I was a vegetarian for about 8 years, and then I realized that being a vegetarian is a fucking cop-out because at this point I'd rather eat a piece of raw steak than milk because of the way the dairy cows are treated. So yeah, I've converted to veganism. Unfortunately, I'm madly in love with a committed omnivore, but I'm working on him. So yeah, I just wanted to call and say thank you so much. You make cleaning my house easier as well when I get to listen to your show.
Cool.
So yeah, I will continue listening and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hey, Colin, I think you missed a spot there. Go back, clean it up. Okay, good. She's cleaning.
Cleaning. Okay. Yeah. So yes, vegetarian cop out.
Well, some people don't know.
No, when we were vegetarians a long time ago.
We knew.
I don't know. I don't think I really wanted to think about it.
I knew.
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Did I?
Yes,
I don't
you
know.
did. I knew, and I just kept putting it off. I was like, vegan. Fucking vegan. Fucking shit. It's like, yeah, I'll be vegan someday.
Well, it happened. It just took a long time. So, yeah.
Oh, I've got the yawns today.
Not good. Wake up.
I'm awake. It's not a matter of being awake. I'm quite awake. I just can't stop yawning for some reason.
I don't know.
Is there a debt of oxygen in here?
Maybe.
Isn't that where that comes from?
Yep.
Okay, the next one is provocatively titled.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is my first time leaving a voicemail for you guys. But I was just thinking about the podcast today when I was actually in my human sexuality class in college. And
awesome.
And he was talking about, I guess, male and female ejaculation and the taste. And he started mentioning all these things you shouldn't eat if you were, if you didn't want like a bitter taste or things like that. And everything happened to be not vegan. And so by the end of going through the list, he was like, well, I guess everyone should just be a vegetarian.
Nice.
And I got a couple chuckles, but I just thought, just one more for the vegans and vegetarians out there, just one more reason everyone should switch over. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
But when a doctor speaks of the male organ, he calls it a penis.
There you go.
Vegans taste better.
They do indeed.
There you go.
Well, it was really funny because we were, as we talked about Show 79, we were in Newsweek a while ago.
Mhm.
And my students saw it and they said, what kinds of questions did they ask you? And I was talking about how we did this thing on vegan love. And the reporter had asked questions like, why would a vegan not want to have sex with a non-vegan? And I said, some vegans say that non-vegans, their, shall we say, bodily secretions don't taste as good. So my students are like, oh, that's so, they were like, they couldn't get over it. They thought it was bullshit and all this other stuff. So
there you go. There's proof.
There we go. And actually, if anyone wants to call in and talk about their experiences with bodily, this could actually be a lot of fun. Actually,
Sure.
This could actually be a lot of fun. We could actually get some really funny voicemails out of it.
Sure.
You don't have to leave your name, although you
don't.
could. But if you want to call and talk about your experiences, that could be a fun show of voicemails. We don't need a ton. Just a few would be funny. All right. Who do we got next? Oh, yes, indeed.
Hey, this is Drunk Dial from the Texas Vegan Freaks.
Now, is that Redmond?
That's Redmond.
That's Redmond?
Yes. Redmond,
Wow.
you sound a little different when you're drunk.
Just a little bit. You sound, yeah. You
More
sound very Texas.
Country camping somewhere.
Somewhere.
I got the buzz on. They said I'm grumpy. This is Redman. I got some people next to me. I'm going to pass the phone off as soon as I tell my story. And I only got 2 minutes, so I'm going to pass off my story. Here's somebody you may know.
This is the cosmic one. All right, so I'm priming my liver for Vegas. Hey, it's Becky May. I'm just, just hanging, watching these people be really drunk while I'm only like semi-buzzed, but, and here comes one more. What up, yo? This is Venice Sinking. I forgot my name. Yes, and goddamn. I forgot what else I was going to say. I'm going to pass you back to my left.
What?
Yeah, so this is El Hombre.
All right. I have to say, for the record, I have an easier time understanding the Scottish voicemails, all right? And, sorry.
Rojo, and we also got Fuya. She's in there saying, but she we're going to try to group snuggle and take a picture, but we don't know if we can handle it. We love you guys. We know we're going to get some Twinkie hands. We love you guys. Bye-bye.
Remember later how your mother told you about the different openings in your body and what they were for?
I bet some of those openings were getting used that night.
Those are some toasty vegans.
They were indeed. If you get drunk and feel like calling us, do it.
Yeah, surprise, Vegas vegans. Those of you in Vegas this weekend, we have not heard from you. What the fuck? So, yeah. I was going to say something else and I forgot. Oh, well.
It's a shame you can't see us. I was making gestures. One day we should video the podcast. It's actually very boring, but occasionally we do make funny gestures here and there.
Sure.
I do anyway.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Janet out in California. Love your show. Just fantastic. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about Happy Meat. For some people that are still going free range and shopping at Whole Foods, I wanted to kind of give them a picture of what Happy Meat looks like. I have a little farm sanctuary out here in California, and across the street, my neighbors raise a couple of beef cows every year for their freezer, and two of the female cows, one of them just had a little baby. He was born this morning, a little black and white cow, and he's cute as can be, looks like a little panda bear, and he's running around with Mom and his little auntie out there and having a great time. And they're free range, playing out on the pasture, and Auntie and Mom are showing him the whole area and having a great old time. But when we get to spring in about 6 months, I'll look out my window, and one morning all three of them will be gone.
Man.
And there'll be a major grief going on with them, all three of them being separated and trucked over to the auction yard, and then they'll be separated again and trucked over to the slaughterhouse, and you know what happens after that. So that's happy meat, and that's grass-fed beef. So anyway, just kind of wanted to blow that illusion out there that there's even such a thing, because these guys are happy today, and I'm grateful that they're going to have some time to share together, but there will come a day when it'll be absolutely horrific. So anyway, sorry to leave such a downer, but boy, you know, when you see it, the picture is real clear.
Well, first, Janet, thank you for having a sanctuary and having a commitment to anything, you know, to everything except the happy meat stuff.
That is awesome.
But it's sad, too, because when people always say to me, well, you know, I hear this now because I teach in class on animal rights, that shouldn't we just eat free range? And, you know, free range is better, but it misses the point.
Exactly.
It completely misses the point. You know, the problem is the relationship that we have of ownership over animals and of exploiting them as a commodity. That's the primary problem we have. And it's like, this is just a nicer way of doing it. It's still the same problem at the end of the day. And as Janet points out, you know, there's still going to be this separation. They're still going to die. They're going to die a horrible death. That's how I mean, sadly, there are a lot of dairy cows around here who, just because the farms are too small, are free range. And I drive by and I see the cows the other day. We saw cows running through a field playing. Yeah. We see cows licking each other. We see them rubbing their heads up against trees. And I think, man, you know, these are animals that clearly enjoy their life. They are in every way sentient. They know what they're doing. They're out there in a field and they're enjoying it, right? And I think all of them are going to die a horrible death. Isn't that a sad thing to think when you see such a big, beautiful animal like that?
I know, but it is exactly what we think every time we go past it.
And it makes me sad.
Yeah. But I think Janet does a really good job at pointing out happy meat, not so happy.
Exactly. And, you know, this is another thing I talk about. I keep talking about my goddamn book, but I don't want to be shamelessly self-promotional, but it's something I worked on for months, and I can't help but think about every time I think of something, it relates to something I talk about in the book.
Of course.
I talk in there about how it's a betrayal of our movement for us to get on side with organizations and with companies that support happy meat. Because I think it betrays the roots of what our movement is. Our movement is about objecting to animal exploitation, period. And when we get on board with corporations and with organizations that say it's okay to exploit animals, it's nicer, it's not as bad as factory farming, that's true, but it's still exploitation, and you're damning all the animals after that to exploitation from here on out. And what a point I raise, and a point I really agree with, is that animal agriculture can change, right? It's changed over. Agriculture has moved very quickly over the last 50 years. It's gotten more capital intensive. It's gotten more technological. And agriculture can change to meet the demands that capital places upon it. It changes as it needs to. If all of a sudden tomorrow factory farming were outlawed, animal agriculture would still exist. It could change. It can change. As long as it can commodify animals, it can exist. And that's why I'm saying we have to fight the commodification of animals, whether it's happy meat or fucking factory farm shit that comes in the styrofoam tray in your local grocery store. That's how I feel.
Indeed.
Chairman Bob has spoken. Anything else?
No.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Jillian. I'm celebrating my year-long vegan anniversary this month, October, so that's cool. I specifically remember because last Halloween I was like, can't eat like all these Snicker bars and stuff, but whatever, it's worth it.
Totally.
Because I'm vegan and I love it and I'm happy to be a freak. But anyway, so my boyfriend is an omni, whatever. He's sexy, and what are you going to do? I love him, can't help it. But today we were having a discussion and whatever. We were in the park, and we had like a totally vegan day, and, you know, we rode our bikes to the park, and we were having a picnic and whatever. We were eating some hummus and some carrots and stuff, and there actually happened to be like a Civil War reenactment going on, which was kind of convenient and odd for us to kind of watch. But anyway, so I was reading the Vegan Source book, which I'm not sure who wrote it, but I got it for my birthday last May, and I'm just now like starting to read it, and it's really cool. and I was just kind of reading some little pieces to him, and he was, listening, of course. And anyway, we have been talking about this for a while because I just started listening to your podcast last week, and I'm like, oh, you got to listen to these guys. They're so funny, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, today he told me that he is going to be a vegetarian at least for a week, which is awesome because you know what? When I became vegetarian, I said I was only going to do it for a week to like humor my friends, and then I realized how disgusting I was for eating meat and whatnot, and I really think that he's going to start having these realizations hopefully this week, if not sooner. But anyway, yeah, so your podcast is cool, and, he's still listening to you guys, and he thinks you're funny and all that great stuff.
Well, thanks, Jillian. Here's what you need to do. You need to tell him. Well, actually, since he may be listening, we need to tell him.
Yeah.
You need to sit down and watch Earthlings.
Mm-hmm.
If you're serious, if you're serious about eating meat, you should know where it's coming from. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
I think that's fair.
I think that's fair, too.
So you should watch it.
Mm-hmm. And do it for Jillian, because then you'll taste better.
Good point.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Jillian again, and I was just listening to an old podcast, and I thought I had something to say. So this is a little story. Let's see. Over the summer, I was in this wedding. It was my friend's wedding, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. It was like a bridesmaid. And one of the other girls in the wedding, I'm from Ohio, so there's a lot of farmers and everything. So another one of the girls came from a farming family, big deal, She knew I was a vegan, and she was always pretty, nice about it, but somehow indirectly took my veganism as offending her family. I'm not sure, whatever. But anyway, so the night before the wedding, we were all like setting up stuff and where the reception was going to be and all that stuff, and a lot of the food was out. And I was able to look at one of the labels on the dinner rolls that were going to be served that night or whatever. So I noticed that they were vegan the next day at the reception. We're all sitting at the table, and I'm like eating vegetables and whatever and the dinner rolls. And this particular girl looked at me and she said, "Oh, how do you know those are vegan?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, I checked, the label last night when we were here." And she's like, "Oh, okay, good, because I checked too, and I wanted to see if you would eat it." Like, she was going to put my veganism in check. I don't know. I think that makes her an asshat, though. I'm not sure.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay, I promise I won't call again for like another month. Okay, bye.
No, you can call. Okay. This is the thing I don't understand, is like the people who are trying to catch vegans doing something that, is somehow not vegan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. They want to prove that it's untenable. They want to prove that it is not possible to live as a vegan. So they want to catch you doing something that isn't vegan to say, "Oh, well, see, you're cheating or whatever," or, "Oh, you're doing this. Well, this doesn't go, with
it mustn't be that important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, or like, "Oh, your ethics are inconsistent, blah, blah, blah." Because anything like that gives them an excuse not to do it.
You know what you say to people like that? I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you say to them. Shut the fuck up and get out of my face. Man, and you stick your middle finger up. No, that's not very nice of me. I should. No, actually, you quietly tolerate them.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they keep doing it to you, then it's sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the Beastie Boys. Anyway, I think what we need to do is have a little musical interlude.
Yeah, a little break.
I like sweet music, don't you, Mother?
I suppose so.
I can always study best when there's soft music playing.
Hey, that was DRI, dead meat. Uh-oh.
What was that?
I don't know. I get it probably from the middle of the track. Next.
Okay.
Hold on a second. You have to talk. Emmy's on my microphone. Oh, there she goes.
Okay.
She's on my headphone.
Yeah. I don't know if you could hear the squeaking during the beginning of that song, but Emmy had a squeaky tennis ball and was sitting underneath our studio here.
And then I had to entertain them with peanut butter. We have this like peanut butter and like, okay, any of you out there, former stoners, remember Easy Cheese? Yeah? Yeah, I know you're nodding. A couple of you at least are. Former stoners who are former
omnis.
Former omnivores or vegetarians, right? Remember Easy Cheese? Well, we have peanut butter like that in a can for the dogs, like put on their Nylabones and stuff. And
we were spraying it directly into Emmy's mouth.
yeah, Emmy, like, I'm always afraid of having it sprayed directly in his mouth, so you got to put it on your finger. Emmy will eat it right out of the can.
All right.
Yeah, Emmy's like, it's really funny. We had to do that just to keep them occupied because they started to fight. So, and we don't have a ton of the show left here, but I want to make sure they don't fight. We only have like a couple voicemails left and all that. So, yeah. Oh, and that like sweet music thing, that wasn't part of the song.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. That's something I got off of those Sex Ed vinyl. All right, moving on.
Hey, this is Laura from Iowa City, and I just got off work at my vegan bakery place where I work. And I saw this joke on the internet yesterday, and I've told everybody at work, and now I'm going to go tell you. You've probably heard it. Okay. How many vegans does it take to change a light bulb? How many? I'm better than you. Ha ha ha. Okay, well, keep up the good work. Love you guys. Bye.
Isn't there some variation on that? It was like 2, 1 to screw in the light bulb and 1 to read the ingredients or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I would probably, 1 to screw in the light bulb and 2 to fight about PETA.
Hello, Bob and Jenna. This is Ruth Ann Twitchell from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm calling you for the first time.
Yay.
Okay, I have a list of things
First time caller, long time listener.
that I want to talk to you about, and number 1 is, to avoid rambling, which I just did. Anyways, number 1 is to thank you about this paper that I'm writing, because I have to do it on an article by Nina Planker.
Nina
Plank.
From the New York Times.
I was going to use a word. Kind of reminds me of See You Next Tuesday.
And I remembered podcast, and I'm using it, so you guys are basically doing my homework for me.
Sweet.
Yeah. Number 2, I have to tell you about this funny question I got, because we're used to getting stupid ones about whether we eat eggs and stuff like that.
Vegans don't eat eggs.
It was actually quite creative. The people I work with were telling me about how scientists mix DNA from fireflies with monkeys so that they can glow
What if a monkey made you a sandwich? Would you eat it then?
in the dark. So we have glow-in-the-dark monkeys, and the question was if somehow they got the trait from snakes to shed skin, and then they started producing cows that could shed their leather, would I use it? And that's pretty much just like, excuse me? So, yeah, there's one for you. Sorry, I have a cold, by the way. Okay, number 3 is about Whole Foods, because they recently just took over. They're like Walmarting the wild oats and health food industries. And I was thinking, Whole Foods is bad, and I couldn't remember why. And then I remembered about you, beautiful people.
Yay!
But I still don't remember why Whole Foods is bad, besides the Happy Meat and stuff like that.
Happy Meat!
Okay. And then, number 4. I think we should all vegans have a party and hang out. Yeah. Number 5 is that I have a crush on both of you and your dogs.
Sweet.
That got cut off.
Oh. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I forget all the numbers, but let me try to work backwards if I can.
The leather.
Oh, would we wear leather if... No.
Yeah, that's the most ridiculous thing I've heard in a long time.
A while ago, there was this whole like vat-grown meat issue. It's a lot like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact hypothetical she just used.
If the cows could shed their skin, like if they got genes from a snake, like could shed their leather skin, and then would you wear the leather?
No.
No, obviously
not at all.
Not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because, well, there are a lot of reasons. I mean, first off, there would have to be cows kept in a situation where they would be shedding their skin, number 1. Number 2, they would be in the they would be someone's property, just producing this stuff for profit for somebody else. So even if it didn't hurt them, they would still be animals that were kept by someone. Number 3, wearing any kind of animal product or consuming any kind of animal product. If you're a vegan, you're concerned about the ethics of animal consumption, reifies the position of animals as our inferiors. That's enough for that. Whole Foods. Oh my God, what is wrong with Whole Foods?
Well, I think actually the 2 things that you brought up pretty much sum it up.
Okay.
Happy Meat, whereas being sold in a business run by a supposed vegan.
Yeah.
So that, contradiction. And of course they use it to make a shitload of profit.
They do.
And exactly another thing you just said was the Walmartization, not just of Wild Oats, but of the whole health, food industry. So I think you pretty much summed it up right there as to why.
I agree.
Why Whole Foods is bad.
I talk about that in the book too. Sorry, I'm being really shameless about the book, and I have to apologize.
Well, it just came out.
I know, but I'm not comfortable being shamelessly self-promotional like that. And I'll be like, we have t-shirts and a book. I don't like my book, read my book. I don't know. It feels weird to me. But it's difficult. Well, no, you're like, I feel like I'm talking to my friends, and I don't know. I don't want to be that annoying guy who's like, my book.
Hey, Bob and Jenna.
Wait, did we answer all the right? She had a lot more questions than that.
That was it. That was about it.
No,
because the other ones were just points.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't all questions.
That's true. A vegan bakery in Iowa City. Is that what she said?
No, that was the previous. That was the one with the joke.
Oh, right, Laura. See, yeah.
You okay there, Bob?
I don't know.
You need more B12.
I took a vitamin today. I took a multi today. I think I'm getting old. I don't know.
Then again, I've listened to these like 3 times now because
yeah,
I had to do all the editing. So.
What? Huh? Oh, voicemail. Okay, I do it now.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. This is Sarah, also known as Swilky on the forums. I am celebrating my 1-month anniversary going vegan as of yesterday. And I would like to thank you, first of all. Your book is what really changed my mind and made me go and stay vegan. But I don't really have any questions or comments. I just wanted to rant. I experienced my first major test of being a vegan this past week. I went home to southeast Missouri for my brother's wedding, where I had to endure a rehearsal dinner of pulled pork. Yes, a large vat of pulled pork. I then had to go to a reception, which had green beans with bacon, mashed potatoes with butter and milk, pulled pork again, and kettle beef. If you do not know what...
Damn, man.
That's
What's up with the pork?
Kettle beef is, you're lucky. It's southeast Missouri specialty.
What is it? Kettle?
Kettle beef? I've never heard of it.
Sounds grody.
Anyway, I also had to deal with the typical Missouri livestock farmers, one of which was the maid of honor, who went into great detail of telling me
Wait. This is the second voicemail
we had. About weddings.
Not just about weddings, but about someone being in the wedding party and in a farm, in a farm family.
Exactly.
Wow.
Weddings, bad news.
But she loves her cows, brushing them and bottle feeding them, and then slaughtering them and putting them in her freezer.
Ew.
Yeah, it did not go into much of a conversation with her as we were eating at the rehearsal dinner.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Think about it for a second. That's like what serial killers do.
I know.
It's like...
It rubs the lotion on its skin. It does this whenever it's told. It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
I mean, it's like... I pet it. I love it. And then I have a captive bolt put in its head and I put it in my freezer.
But anyway, I was so excited to come back to Chapel Hill yesterday after spending 4 hours traveling on an airplane and then buses. I arrived home to find death in my vegan refrigerator. For some reason, my boyfriend decided to leave a whole roasted chicken carcass, hot dogs, cheese, eggs, and butter in my refrigerator.
Oh, man.
Right next to my tofu.
Did you punch him?
Let's just say I was really fucking angry. Absolutely confused as to why he would feel the need to do that.
That's right.
On top of that, the one sure I had asked, my poor little Lola had no water. One thing I asked was that my cat get watered? No water. I was furious. I still am furious. And it's not, bad enough that he wasn't already on my shit list for being a terrible boyfriend, but let's just say I'm going to clean out my life like I made him clean out the refrigerator. Cheesy metaphor, yes.
Snap.
But really all I wanted to say was to tell my little story, and it felt good to tell people who understand. The few people I have told this story to just look at me as, big deal or laugh. And
silly vegan.
I love living in a town where I know there are vegans. I have not found them yet. If there are any vegans on the forum who live in Chapel Hill, Raleigh, or Durham, please contact Swilky. I need your support. That's it, I guess. I love you, Bob and Jenna, and thank you for all of your support, and I really enjoy listening to your podcast. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you know what? When you were saying that the boyfriend put the stuff in the fridge, I was thinking...
And didn't give your cat water. Now that is really bad.
I was just thinking, come on, man. Vegans, we're in a situation like this.
We no longer enslave animals for food purposes.
That's where we're at. And he's putting stuff in your fridge like a fucking serial killer. So you know what? Good. I wish I had a toilet flushing sound because that's what I would play right now. I did have one. I don't know where it's long gone. So, good. Clean out your refrigerator, clean out your boyfriend.
Good riddance.
There are better vegan men out there.
There are. Start a thread on the forums if you haven't already.
Yeah, you really should.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. So, there you go. And I'm glad you could commiserate with us.
Yes, and we do understand.
We do. Because
we all think about the world very differently. So people wouldn't understand why you'd be bothered by a dead chicken carcass in your own refrigerator.
It's food. It's to them.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But to me, it'd be like seeing a human foot wrapped up in the fridge. It's disgusting, and it grosses me out.
Yeah.
And it's because vegans have kind of pulled back that one layer and looked underneath it. We know that underneath all this stuff is actually a sentient being. So that's where we're at. All right.
267-295-1944. Write the number down on your refrigerator door. Add the 001 country code if you call us from Vienna. That's how you leave a voicemail for good old Bob and Jenna.
And I think that's it for episode 80.
Yeah, there were a lot of voicemails, but we did have a lot of catching up to do.
We do.
And we still have catching up to do. That was only like October.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So, well, anyway, I apologize for being gone for so long. We will not give up on Vegan Freak Radio.
No. So if there's a long pause between shows, it's just because we're busy. We're not giving up on it.
No, not at all.
So
I know some of you write to us and like, no, you're not giving up, are you? No, we're not. No. We put too much into this shit to give it up.
Yeah, man.
Come on. We
got to make more vegans.
We do, and I think we need to make a commitment to do this more often. Fuck work. Well, no, I mean, we deserve to have an hour or two a week to do this shit. It's not impossible, but
not at all.
Lately, it's been really hard. So, anyway, enough of our whining. Thank you for listening. You can get in touch with us, podcast at veganfreakradio.com or show at veganfreakradio.com. What is our email
address? Show
at
veganfreakradio.com.
Fuck, I forget even our own email address. How stupid am I? Okay, show at veganfreakradio.com. 267-295-1944 is the voicemail number. You should have that on your refrigerator door already.
Yep.
And I don't know. That's about it.
Yeah. So cool. Get in touch with us.
Absolutely.
Go vegan, stay vegan.
That's right.
Take your B12.
Take your B12.
Take care of yourself.
And I think that's it. So be in touch, and we'll be back again soon. Well, we'll be back soon because we have interviews.
Oh, yes. That's right.
So anyway, keep your eye on that RSS feed in iTunes, and we'll be back. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Siéntese. Bienvenidos. Thank you for coming. Welcome to El Jardín de los Rosas.
Me too.
Speaking of new books, my book, Making a Killing in the Political Economy of Animal Rights, is finally out. Out. You can get it now from AK Press. Amazon, I think, should have stock soon if they don't already. I think it says something like 4 to 6 weeks to get a copy from Amazon, but I can't imagine that's right. That probably means they have stock on the way.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it right away from AK Press, though.
Yes.
So you have to, if you want to order it, the best place to order it is from AK Press.
Indeed.
Not from us. We don't even sell it.
No, because it's not our book.
It's not. Well, it's my book, but we didn't publish it. So AK Press published it. And I suspect it will be a book that will generate some level of controversy.
It'll piss people off.
I think it will piss some people off. I didn't intend to piss people off, though. I do have a couple little things in there that I think will make some people angry or make them laugh. Some of it's funny. Some of it's very funny. For example, hold on. I'll grab some.
Okay. So, also, if you are a member of Friends of AK, I think you'll be getting a copy, won't you?
Yeah, you'll get this in your Friends of AK
and if you're not at Friends of AK, you should go check out their program. Friends of AK.
It's good stuff.
They send you all their new releases that they publish.
So, let me tell you a little bit about the book. I mean, first off, it kind of takes an overview of... It does an analysis of animal agriculture and talks about how animal agriculture and capitalism work together to exploit animals. And then it deals with this whole question of the animal rights movement itself and where the movement is going on the one hand. But on the other hand, some of the problems of the left and movements on the left and how they're not integrating in thoroughly the issue of animals. And the book concludes with a chapter called You Cannot Buy the Revolution, the gist of which is get up off your ass and go do something. And go do something means more than giving money to organizations. I also point out what I think are some of the flaws in veganism. And I think veganism has some problems. And part of what I say here is, let's see. I talk about how there are, some freegans, I'll just read you a little bit. Some freegans use this to argue against what they see as vegan purity and avoiding animal products. It is more useful to urge vegans to move beyond the bourgeois lifestyle politics and the upper-class ecosexualism some vegans promote through consumption. And I go on and talk about some things like, I say, magazines like Veg News are veritable porn for this lifestyle, and they take it to the extreme, detailing $20,000 vegan weddings, what I think are in fairly easy to understand terms. I went to a lot of trouble to make sure that the Marxist political economy in this book was easy to understand. So you don't really need to know a lot. I mean, if some of you are out there going, oh my God, I don't know anything about Marx, you don't need to know anything about Marx to read this book or anything about left politics. Well, it helps know something about left politics. It's important to note that I went to a lot of trouble to make sure the book was readable by anybody, pretty much. So that was one of the goals. Speaking of books, though, we're going to do a second edition of Vegan Freak, too.
Yes, this coming summer.
We're going to write it this coming summer. It should be out in the fall. Yeah. So, and we're going to publish it with a different press.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that as the time draws near. So, Making a Killing AK Press. I would love to hear what you think of it. Maybe we should interview me on the show.
So, Bob, what do you think of Bob?
Yeah. Bob, what was the, I could... Actually, though, the thing is like, I know... here's the thing about writing a book. I write this book, and I know the book isn't perfect. I know there are things in here that, I mean, whenever you write a book, you can only do so much.
Right.
You're limited by time. You're limited by space. You're limited by the idea. You have a central idea you want to get across. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely things in here that I think, could be expanded or extended.
Mm-hmm.
So. And
like any good idea, I mean, all ideas should be continually to develop, and that kind of thing. So,
well, that's the goal.
I would imagine that happens. Yeah,
that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Making a Killing.
Cool.
Yeah, man. What else do we have on there? Anything else on the list?
You want to talk about your class in Earthlings?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. I'm teaching a class called Animal Rights, Human Rights, or Human Rights, Animal Rights. I forget which it really is. It's one of the two. I'm teaching a class. I don't even know what the hell it's called. And what I found really interesting about that class so far is we started talking about animal rights. I mean, we talk about human rights first. And so we talk about what a right is and how a right establishes kind of a boundary, a moral trump. It's something that supersedes, in a sense, So we were talking about human rights, and we talked about some of the failures of the human rights paradigm. And then we moved into this, or some of the failures of human rights within, the liberal paradigm, as I mean to say, within kind of our conception of human rights from a political standpoint. I can go into more depth on this, but I don't want to bore the shit out of people. So we moved from human rights into this animal rights. And the day we did the animal rights stuff, I brought in Earthlings. I didn't show the whole thing because I...
Thank you all. Please be seated. Siéntese. Bienvenidos. Thank you for coming. Welcome to El Jardín de los Rosas.
Kids, the bugs and the birds fascinated us. They were just like us. And we were taught to slam the door. It's not cool to feel too much. But some of us break free. Shorty, I'm a vegan freak. That's what you think. I'm a vegan freak. Shorty, I'm a vegan freak. Happy as I'm a
Coming to you from high atop their elite fortress of moral superiority, here are your protein-deficient hosts, Bob and Jenna.
Hey, Vegan Freaks, this is Bob.
And Jenna.
And we're back again for another Vegan Freak Radio, number 80. 80.
Yes.
80 episodes.
80 episodes. Are you sick of us yet? I hope not.
I don't think people are sick of us.
No.
I think they're sick of us not doing shows.
Yeah, I know. We got to get back on schedule.
So-
But, as always, our excuse, busy.
Yeah, I've been working 12-hour days. I just got straddled with an incredible amount of shit at work that I didn't really want to do, but I'm the only one to do it. So I'm doing it. And they have a lot of leverage over me at the moment, so I wasn't in a position to say no. Thus, I've been working 12-hour days, 5 and 6 days a week. Woohoo! Fun. Enough of my whining, but that's why we've been gone. We've both been very busy with work, real work.
Yes.
Everyday work.
So, and bienvenidos. Vegan Freak Radio.
Yeah. This guy, okay, Bush, supposedly fluent in Spanish. Supposedly. Now, that does not sound fluent to me.
No.
You don't have to speak Spanish, and that does not sound fluent to you.
No.
Listen.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Siéntese.
Oh, God.
Bienvenidos. Thank you.
Bienvenidos.
He's a snake.
Yeah. Georgie the Snake. Okay. I heard that. That's old, obviously, because it's from the El Cinco de Mayo, as George said. I think all George knows about Cinco de Mayo is drinking Coronas with his frat buddies.
Yeah.
Out somewhere in the Deke house. Anyway, so I heard that and we had to eat it on the show because we have a lot of funny Bush things, and that was worth adding to the funny Bush things queue. This is my favorite, though.
You're working hard to put food on your family.
He sounds so serious.
He does.
Yes. And we pulled off other interesting little clips from here and there on the web. Like this one. We're going to open the show with this one, but we couldn't figure out exactly how to do it. I like this one. This is from some vinyl a friend of mine passed me.
Mother, what do husbands and wives do when they get married?
What do husbands and what? Why do you ask, dear?
Well, there were some drawings in Bob's textbook. I didn't mean to look at them, honest.
My textbook?
Well, then some of the older girls, well...
You mean they talk about things sometimes?
Well, yes. Only they stop when they see me coming.
What do husbands and wives do when they get married? It's quite a beautiful story, dear.
Oh, it is a beautiful story indeed. And if the husbands and wives are like us, they do Vegan Freak Radio.
Yeah.
So here we are. So we've got a lot of voicemails. God, yes. We were just sitting here arguing about voicemails.
So, because we haven't done any in eons, like probably since August.
Yeah.
So we have a pile. And most of these are from October, so they're,
Okay.
kind of recent.
So we're going to get to some voicemails today, but we also have a couple short things to talk about prior to the voicemail.
Yes. One thing that we want to say is that we have a couple of interviews coming up. So you don't just have to listen to us blather on. You can listen to other people blather on too. No. No, they'll be good and they'll be interesting. We're going to talk to Drina Burton.
She has a new book out.
Again, because she has a new book out, Eat, Drink, and Be Vegan. And I'll tell you right now, if you haven't gotten a copy yet, go get a copy.
It is good.
We've been making things out of there nonstop, really.
Yeah.
They've all been really good.
They have indeed. Drina knows her shit, man.
She does. And just let me tell you, a whole chapter on hummus. So for those hummus freaks out there, you can do your hummus variations, and it's excellent. So we'll be talking to Drina actually next week, I think.
Okay, cool. And we'll have that with her right after we do it, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then later on we have, who do we have?
Nathan Winograd, who wrote a book called Redemption, The Myth of Pet Overpopulation and the No-Kill Revolution in America.
And he's the week after Drina.
Yeah.
So
we'll be talking to him about his book and his experience with no-kill shelters.
sounds good. Very much looking forward to that. Vegan vacations in Tahiti. What's wrong, Jenna?
Nothing.
Okay. Vegan vacations in Tahiti and other exotic locales. And above all most else, promoting a brand of vegan consumerism, which would make one believe that the magazine editors really feel like we can buy our way to redemption if only we can find the perfect pleather handbag and take delivery on this year's new, more efficient Toyota Prius in Seaside Pearl with the bisque interior. And I go on to talk about why I think some of these perspectives on veganism are flawed, and why we need to actually have a veganism that comes kind of from an analysis of oppression. Mm-hmm. So rather than one of purity. And that's not to say that I don't know. I mean, I think the vegan movement has some flaws. I think we need to think critically about those flaws. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have nice stuff necessarily. I'm not saying that we shouldn't consume anything. I'm just saying we should be a little more thoughtful.
Of course.
So that's kind of the gist of me killing. I won't go into too much depth. I'm sure that
we can't consume our way to a better world.
Right.
Only.
That's it.
If we want a better world, we have to make a lot of changes at the base level.
I completely agree.
Of things.
And I think that's the gist of that. So that snarky little part there, which admittedly is a little snarky.
You snarky?
No, never. No, I think the word I've seen before is smug. And that's okay. But anyway, I would encourage, I think I hope it'll be an interesting read for people. I know a lot of people out there will disagree with a lot of what is in the book, but my goal isn't that people agree with me. My goal is that we talk about the movement, because I think we moved into a place in the animal rights movement where we end up worshiping idols, and we don't talk enough about strategy. We don't talk enough about how we can do things differently and more effectively. And I think that there are some dangerous elements of that, a kind of a conservatism or parochialism within the movement.
And for a lot of people, veganism isn't the baseline. Veganism is just, oh, well, it would be nice if people would go vegan, but they don't use it as a strategy. And whereas people should be talking about veganism more.
Absolutely. And the book itself also takes this analysis of animals. I mean, it works off of a kind of idea, works off of a foundation from Gary Francione, kind of combines Francione with Marxist political economy and says, look, animals are commodities and property. And anything that we do that doesn't challenge the property and commodity status of animals condemns more animals in the future to more exploitation.
Yep.
And I kind of go through why that's the case, and I explain that